Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Erin Renfro. I use the pronouns she. I try not to use that one too much.
Keep talking.
It's still a little loud. Is that master volume still up? Better? Still loud.
Just stand up straight, it should be okay.
Just stand up straight, like so. Sounds like my mother's in here somewhere. We bid you welcome, who come with weary spirits seeking rest. We bid you welcome, who come with hope in your heart. We bid you welcome, who enter this place as a homecoming, who have found here room for your spirit, who find in this people a family. Whoever you are, whatever you are, wherever you are on your journey, we bid you welcome. So if you would take a moment, please silence all of your electronic devices. We don't want anyone interfering with what's going on in the service. And after editing a few videos, boy, it really shows up in the videos. So if you don't want to be immortalized with your phone going off, now's the time. Take a moment to welcome any guests or newcomers we have today. We're glad you're here. We hope you'll stick around and partake of some refreshments and fellowship after the service. If you would like to receive communication about us, please fill out one of these guest cards that are out on the credenza that-a-way. You can return these to the greeters or leave them on the credenza, or you can put them in the offering basket when it goes around later. We don't have a written order of service, but each of you have been provided with a little brochure. We have really nice ones that are coated in acrylic that we mean to reuse, so if you wouldn't mind sticking them in the basket on the way out. If you would like to keep one that has the information in it, we have some not acrylic coated ones that you can certainly take home with you, and anyone can get one of those for you. And if you have any joys or sorrows, you've been given one of these or offered one. You are welcome to write down a personal joy or sorrow you would like to share with the members of this congregation, and you can put that in the offering basket when it goes around, and hopefully at that time I will remember to remind you of that. And then we have a few other announcements. The big one today, after our service, is our annual congregational meeting. So if you're a visitor today, boy, you picked a good one. This is when we vote on the leadership slate for the coming year. And don't worry, that leadership slate is already put together, so nobody's going to get nominated by surprise to do something they don't want to do. We will be adopting the budget, and we will also be voting on whether or not to apply to the UUA for the official designation as an LGBTQ plus welcoming congregation. And a couple more. We do have a new adult education second hour coming on May 29th. Tom Botsford will be leading a review of 4 recent books that are critical of our denomination. That's how we UUs roll. The books that we'll be talking about are by UU insiders that point to concerns over social justice, censorship, unjustified disfellowshipping, and defamation. He says the books have important points to make about our commitment to free inquiry, free speech, democracy, and social justice. That program will begin after the service on May 29th, and you are welcome to contact Tom if you would like more information in the meantime. Do you eat? Ever need a handyman? Help organizing all of this stuff that just somehow collects and collects? How about yard work? Need to run errands but don't want to drive? Or maybe explore your hidden creative and artistic talents. Oh, and taxes. Doesn't everyone love taxes? Coming in June, our newest offering, a gift certificate mart, will be open for you to purchase online a certificate for a service and or something to make your cooking chores a breeze. We are in the process of collecting contributions. That actually was over on Friday, wasn't it? But if you have a last minute contribution, get in touch with Linda Cobb. I imagine we can work it in. And since it's me working it in, we can work it in. But be on the lookout for that to go live. You will get a preview next week. but then the sale will go live on June 1st. I think I have gotten everything. Who had an announcement that I've forgotten? No one? Awesome. Okay. So now we will do opening words. Nope. People say, "What is the sense of our small effort?" They cannot see that we must lay one brick at a time, take one step at a time. A pebble cast into a pond causes ripples that spread in all directions. Each one of our thoughts, words, and deeds is like that. No one has a right to sit down and feel hopeless. There's too much work to do. Those words are by Dorothy Day. They are in our hymnal number 560 if you're interested in reading them again. And we will light our chalice. May the light we now kindle inspire us to use our powers to heal and not to harm, to help and not to hinder, to bless and not to curse, to serve you, Spirit of freedom. I always know somebody's going to jump up and help me. If you would, please rise as body and spirit are willing and able. We will recite our covenant. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is law. This is our covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. If you will remain standing, we will do our first hymn, number 311, Let It Be a Dance, and the choir will be joining us.
May I have this dance with you through the good times.
Today we have A Time for All Ages. It was a storybook that was recommended to me by Laurie Winterberg. Thank you so much for the recommendation. It's called Miss Rumphius, and this copy will be in the library if you'd like to borrow it at any point. The lupine lady lives in a small house overlooking the sea. In between the rocks around her house grow blue and purple and rose-colored flowers. The lupine lady is little and old, but she has not always been that way. I know, she is my great aunt, and she told me so. Once upon a time, she was a little girl named Alice who lived in a city by the sea. From the front stoop, she could see the wharves and the bristling masts of tall ships. Many years ago, her grandfather had come to America on a large sailing ship. Now he worked in the shop at the bottom of the house, making figureheads for the prows of ships and carving Indians out of wood to put in front of cigar stores. For Alice's grandfather was an artist. He painted pictures, too, of sailing ships and places across the sea. When he was very busy, Alice helped him put in the skies. In the evening, Alice sat on her grandfather's knee and listened to his story of faraway places. When he had finished, Alice would say, "When I grow up, I too will go to faraway places, and when I grow old, I too will live beside the sea." "That is all very well, little Alice," said her grandfather, "but there is a third thing you must do." "What is that?" asked Alice. "You must do something to make the world more beautiful," said her grandfather. "All right," said Alice, but she did not know what that could be. In the meantime, Alice got up and washed her face and ate porridge for breakfast. She went to school and came home and did her homework, and pretty soon she was grown up. Then my great aunt Alice set out to do the three things she had told her grandfather she was going to do. She left home and went to live in another city far from the sea and salt air. There she worked in a library, dusting books and keeping them from getting mixed up and helping people find the ones they wanted. Some of the books told her about faraway places. People called her Miss Rumphius now. Sometimes she went to the conservatory in the middle of the park. When she stepped inside on a wintry day, the warm, moist air wrapped itself around her, and the sweet smell of jasmine filled her nose. "This is almost like a tropical isle," said Miss Rumphius, "but not quite." So Miss Rumphius went to a real tropical island where people kept cockatoos and monkeys as pets. She walked on long beaches, picking up beautiful shells. One day she met the Baparaja, king of a fishing village. "You must be tired," he said. "Come into my house and rest." So Miss Rumphius went in and met the Baparaja's wife. The Baparaja himself fetched a green coconut and cut a slice off the top so that Miss Rumphius could drink the coconut water inside. Before she left, the Baparaja gave her a beautiful mother-of-pearl shell on which he had painted a bird of paradise and the words, "You will always remain in my heart." "You will always remain in mine too," said Miss Rumphius. My great-aunt, Miss Alice Rumphius, climbed tall mountains where the snow never melted. She went through jungles and across deserts. She saw lions playing and kangaroos jumping. And everywhere she made friends she would never forget. Finally, she came to the land of the lotus eaters, and there, getting off a camel, she hurt her back. "What a foolish thing to do," said Miss Rumphius. "Well, I have certainly seen faraway places. Maybe it is time to find my place beside the sea." And it was, and she did. From the porch of her new house, Miss Rumphius watched the sun come up. She watched it cross the heavens and sparkle on the water, and she saw it set in glory in the evening. She started a little garden among the rocks that surrounded her house, and she planted a few flower seeds in the stony ground. Miss Rumphius was almost perfectly happy. "But there is still one more thing I have to do," she said. "I have to do something to make the world more beautiful." "But what? The world is already pretty nice," she thought, looking out over the ocean. The next spring, Miss Rumphius was not very well. Her back was bothering her again, and she had to stay in bed most of the time. The flowers she had planted the summer before had come up and bloomed in spite of the stony ground. She could see them from her bedroom window, blue and purple and rose-colored. "Lupines," said Miss Rumphius with satisfaction. "I have always loved lupines the best. I wish I could plant more seeds this summer so that I could have still more flowers next year." But she was not able to. After a hard winter, spring came. Miss Rumphius was feeling much better. Now she could take walks again. One afternoon, she started to go up and over the hill where she had not been for a long time. "I don't believe my eyes," she cried when she got to the top. For there, on the other side of the hill, was a large patch of blue and purple and rose-colored lupines. "It was the wind," she said as she knelt in delight. "It was the wind that brought the seeds from my garden here, and the birds must have helped." Then Miss Rumphius had a wonderful idea. She hurried home and got out her seed catalogs. She sent off to the very best seed house for 5 bushels of lupine seed. All that summer, Miss Rumphius, her pockets full of seeds, wandered over fields and headlands sowing lupines. She scattered seeds along the highways and down the country lanes. She flung handfuls of them around the schoolhouse and back of the church. She tossed them into hollows and along stone walls. Her back didn't hurt her anymore at all. Now some people called her that crazy old lady. The next spring, there were lupines everywhere. Fields and hillsides were covered with blue and purple and rose-colored flowers. They bloomed along the highways and down the lanes. Bright patches lay around the schoolhouse and back of the church. Down in the hollows and along the stone walls grew the beautiful flowers. Miss Rumphius had done the third, the most difficult thing of all. My great-aunt Alice, Miss Rumphius, is very old now. Her hair is very white. Every year there are more and more lupines. Now they call her the Lupine Lady. Sometimes my friends stand with me outside her gate, curious to see the old lady who planted the fields of lupines. When she invites us in, they come slowly. They think she is the oldest woman in the world. Often she tells us stories of faraway places. When I grow up, I tell her, I too will go to faraway places and come home to live by the sea. "That is all very well, little Alice," said my aunt, "but there is a third thing you must do." "What is that?" I ask. "You must do something to make the world more beautiful." "All right," I say, but I do not know yet what that can be. Now, I just have to say that story was about commitment. It was not about scattering the seeds of possibly non-native plants in places where they shouldn't live. All right, I was going to sing the children out. Do we have any that need to? Oh, we do. Let's sing the children out real quick. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Please remember, as the offering basket goes around, if you have any joys or sorrows to share, to put it in as the basket goes by. This congregation, like all independent Unitarian Universalist congregations, is supported solely by donations from its members and friends. We will now gratefully receive an offering to continue the work of this church within and beyond its walls. We do have a few joys and sorrows. From Mary Lee. Special thank you to Jay Butcher for working in the memorial garden. That's the garden directly beyond the porch there. Yes, the beauty is appreciated by all. Jay's right there being modest. But. From Tabitha, my health has not been great, and she just found out about a bunch of new food allergies. Oh, what a shame. I think Tabitha is probably with children, but bless her heart. From Chris, 4 candles. One for my Aunt Marion, who found out she will need and will be receiving surgery on June 14th for a 90% blockage in her aortic artery. Wow. 2 for my aunt. And uncle, thank you, who are moving to Pensacola, as the buyer for their opportunities has started the process with no communication. 3 for a safe journey for Chris, the kids, your cousin and dog, aunt and uncle, and niece next Friday as they travel from different states to meet in New Orleans. And the 4th for Keegan's graduation from elementary school to middle school and his Mad Scientist Award. Oh, that sounds like fun. From Laura, prayers and thoughts for her brother Kip in Boston, who is sick with COVID. From Georgiana, wishing Laura Keith King a happy big 70th birthday. And because she is so good at getting us to sing, happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday, dear Laura, happy birthday to you. And Mary Beth Ramsey says, possible new job, and wishing for safe travels next week. And we will light one more candle for those joys and sorrows that remain in our hearts unspoken. I really wasn't trying to set you up when I asked you to help. Thank you. If I might ask Laurie Winterberg to join me, we have some words of meditation.
Aaron and I are going to kind of tag team this reading. I'll start. It's called My Commitments to Myself by Laura Mancuso. I take care of myself first because I am deserving of exquisite care. I take care of myself to maintain the capacity to help others.
I move and stretch my body every day. I spend time in nature, attuning my senses to the earth's wisdom.
I ration my daily exposure to the news. I identify and access credible sources of information. I protect myself from becoming overwhelmed by information about the pandemic.
I pace myself. I sit with the reality of uncertainty and impermanence and allow it to temper my desire for control.
I listen without judgment to others' reactions, which may be different from mine. I forgive myself and others when stress brings out our shadow selves.
I feel fear fully when I am fearful. I experience sadness fully when I am sad.
I allow anger fully when I'm angry. I relish joy fully when I am joyful.
I seek out healthy pleasures and indulge in them without guilt. I remind myself that feelings are transient states that move through me. They do not last, and they do not define me, nor do my thoughts.
I balance my drive for self-improvement with compassionate acceptance of myself as I am right now. I initiate contact with loved ones and let them know I hold them in my heart.
I seek out with increased sensitivity those who are the most vulnerable. If possible, I share my resources with those who need help to survive.
When possible, I move away from people, situations, and experiences that do not serve my highest good. I strengthen my connection to my sources of spiritual strength so that I continue to be replenished.
I acknowledge the nearness of death as a key motivator for living a full life. I pray for the suffering of all beings to cease.
I grieve my losses and celebrate my successes. I remain open to new ways of being, surprising sources of joy, and unanticipated discoveries every day. Thank you.
And I'm so glad Laurie found those. There's so many of those I need to put on a sticky note on my forehead. I have always enjoyed having our moment of silence, so I think we will do that. We will just sit in silence for a moment together. You may use it for meditation, reflection, or prayer, or simply enjoy being in silent covenant with the people around you. And I will ring the bowl at the end. This service was actually the brainchild of Nancy Hagman. She asked me to take over for her when she found out she was going to be out of town this Sunday. But she had already gotten together a wonderful group of folks to speak about the theme of commitment. And she left it beautifully and at times confusingly wide open as to what she meant by commitment. So we have some folks who are going to come up and talk about what commitment means to them. And I'll be as interested as you are to see what they have to say. And if I can pick on Margaret to start us off. Margaret McLaren, our resident poet laureate and Sunday Sweets baker, come on up.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I am much better at baking than I am standing up here talking to you. I'm going to tell you about my journey to this place. The journey was long. I hope this presentation will not be that long. My path to this place where I stand today began on a nature trail when I was about 9 years old. Walking through the vegetable garden with my dad, picking okra and tomatoes, we saw a bluebird fly by, and it reminded my dad of an incident which he related to me. He and his co-workers, while walking through the woods, found a bluebird sitting on her nest. Woven into the nest was a $5 bill. This was during the Depression, when $5 would have meant a lot to any of the workers. But my dad said, "No, you will not destroy that bird's nest." Our principle number 7. We are all part of the interdependent web of life. In the interest of time, I will not give you examples of how our UU tenets played out in my daily life. I will leave you with this. We live near the Perdita River where we often went fishing. We carried a little spade for digging fishing worms at the riverbank. Invariably, the riverbank would be littered with tin cans, papers, cigarette butts, and so forth. My dad would instruct us to gather up all the trash, dig a hole, and bury it so that it would decompose under the ground. When I dared to ask why we had to dispose of others' trash, my dad replied, "Lass, every place you go, try to leave that place better than you found it." Those words have resonated with me throughout my life. I have tried to be a good steward of the earth, conserving, preserving, recycling, and beautifying with my love of flowers and gardening. Fast forward. I grew up, married, had 2 children, and was widowed. Later finding a kindred spirit, and in 1959 remarrying and moving to New Orleans. Reading the Times-Picayune, we kept seeing ads run by the Unitarian Church regarding a number of social concern issues. Who are these people? They sound like us. We visited the beautiful downtown Unitarian Church and were so happy to find that here was a place where others believed as we did and had a beautiful place to meet and gather. It was wonderful. It was also short-lived. All too soon, a job transfer took us to Tuscaloosa, where there at that time was no UU church. We became acquainted with like-minded people, and we started a small UU fellowship. Coincidentally, Reverend Alice attended this fellowship long after my family had moved on. After Tuscaloosa, as my husband climbed the corporate ladder, subsequent moves took us to St. Louis, Dallas, Westport, and Princeton. We sought out our church at each one. I down in RE with the children, my husband in the sanctuary making beautiful music with his clarinet. Sadly, after 21 years, my marriage is dissolved and I am going to move back to Pensacola, where I have property and a large, warm, welcoming family. But wait, I might have to stop off in New Orleans. I called my sister Mal and asked her to find out if Princeton had a Unitarian church. She called back, "Marg, that little old cult you belong to has a building way over yonder on Scott Street." I came home, settled in, got a job, and sought out my little old cult. Having attended some of the most beautiful UU churches in the nation, to say I was dismayed is an understatement. The small building looked like a National Guard armory. It did. But there was one redeeming feature that caught Nature Girl's eye. A beautiful Japanese magnolia was blooming just outside the door. Scott Streeters, I'm sure you remember that bush. It was beautiful. I took a breath and went in to a most welcoming group of UUs. The Detonencourts, Bullivants, Johnsons, Jay Butcher's beautiful, gracious mother, and many others. And here I stand today, happy to be in this most special UU church of all, my home church. I am old and near the finish line. There is not much I can do to make our church a better place. Bake a few cakes, help with the yard sales, and help financially as my social security budget allows. But I stand totally committed to this church and this congregation. The commitment in this old soul lives on, and I will be here with you, committed to this place and to all of you, just as long as I have breath.
Thank you, Margaret. Laurie, did you have anything else, or was the meditation what you wanted? Yes, come on up.
I'm Laurie, and my pronouns are she and her, and I want to ask, you don't have to show hands, but I want to kind of ask you a question. When you're considering making a commitment or making a decision, do you have a kind of an animal approach? Maybe you're like a lion, and a lion who just roars, jumps in, risk taker, and they're gonna go and conquer everything. Maybe you're like a fox. We have some fox lovers among us. You just so cautious, maybe a little curious, and some people might even say you're a little sneaky. Or maybe you're like a raccoon. And raccoons, you know how they take food and they do like this and they look at it from every angle before they decide to eat it? Being very cautious, a real low risk taker. I'm a raccoon, no doubt about it. I signed that membership book July 4th, 1999, but I had to see this church from a lot of different angles before I decided to become a member. It's just my natural tendency to analyze, and it has generally served me well. And that's a nice story, and that's just all well and good, but it kind of falls short for why I have stayed 20-some years here with this congregation. Here's the second little piece to this story. We all know what we call call letters for radio and TV stations, you know, WEAR, WUWF, WSRE, the call letters. Well, there's another kind of a station that has call letters, and it's WIFM, What's in It for Me. So if you kind of tune into what's in it for me, this is what's in it for me. My commitment to this church has two main ingredients. The first one, as we've heard mentioned, Margaret echoed it well, was a sense of being among like-minded people. And it's coupled with, number two, a sense of purpose, a sense of service, something to do that is needed in the community, large community, small community. The raccoon in me needed to see UUCP as a place where my needs were going to be met, my what's in it for me. And it purely is just that simple. I, the one that benefits, I hope others do too, but for me, I benefit greatly by being part of this community. And just like Ms. Rumphius, I hope to be able to be of benefit to the community, to this faith community, where we don't always think alike, and I may misquote, but we don't have to always think alike to love alike. Thank you.
All right, I thought I saw Patty Underwood come in today. Is she there? Did you want to read your own, or do you want me to read it?
I'm not much of it.
Okay, I'll read it for you then. Commitment to an ideal, person, or way of life is never to be made cavalierly. It certainly took me quite a while to ease myself into the life of our congregation. Some folks recognize exactly when they have arrived at a location precisely to their liking. Others of us are more cautious, bearing in mind the old adage, look before you leap. To be quite honest, though, from my very first visit here, UUCP felt a lot like the church home I had long envisioned. I am so grateful that years before I knew I would need it, people before me brought this jewel into existence. The thing I believe about commitment is that it is intertwined with duty. Doing one's duty sounds a rather grim and cheerless business, dusty dry, a thing of drudgery. The expression itself doesn't give much suggestion of joyousness. This is a simple fallacy. The reality of doing one's duty is simply that having done it, one is left with a feeling of accomplishment and pride of self, for which there is no substitute. It carries no requirement that others need ever know about it for it to bring a person a sense of satisfied contentment. Without commitment, there can be no sense of duty, and without a proper feeling of being duty-bound, there would be very little progress made in our ongoing quest for peace, love, and most of all, equity in this world of ours. So I say to do your duty, however reluctantly, and discover a sense of yourself that perhaps you never really knew. Thank you, Patty. That was wonderful. All right, would Georgiana Bryant like to come up?
Good morning. What does commitment mean to me? As I pondered this question, I realized that as I reflected on my 36 years of being a member of UUCP, being able to demonstrate my commitment to UUCP has changed by various factors going on in my life at the time. For example, when we first moved to Milton, I was starting a new job, which required lots of extra work hours and a strong sense of commitment to my new job. Hence, I attended services and other activities less frequently than I do now. As I learned my job, I was able to serve on the church board in several positions, to take on various committee responsibilities, and to serve as a leader for many activities. However, when my husband became ill and subsequently debilitated, I had to back off of certain obligations and devote more time and effort to his care. Likewise, when I adopted my daughter when she was just 13 years old, she required more of my time and effort when she was growing up. Once she was grown, and then when I retired, I was able to commit more of my time and effort to organizations such as UUCP. I mention these points because all of us have to figure out a balance of all things going on in our lives in order to determine what level of commitment we are able to give at any given time to others and to organizations we care about in our lives. I wanted to make this point because we don't expect anyone to be gung-ho all the time. No healthy organization should. We don't want to have members burn out and then quit. A healthy organization has an ebb and flow of leaders and followers. Yes, we need followers just as much as we need leaders. As we all know, each of us are committed to other people and to organizations. We have different levels of commitment to these people and organizations dependent upon how much we like or believe in these people or organizations. I joined the UU Church in Tallahassee in 1979 because I believed in what this faith purported: the inherent dignity of every person, making ethical choices, being non-judgmental, searching for truth and meaning, following a democratic process, desiring world peace, and the view of the interdependence of all living things. When my husband Tom and I moved to Milton, we transferred our membership to POOF, the Pensacola Unitarian Universalist Fellowship, which was lay-led. Many of the people I met in Milton asked me why I would drive all the way to Pensacola to go to church when there were so many churches in Santa Rosa County. My answer, of course, was that there wasn't a Unitarian Universalist church in Milton. Hence, part of my commitment is determined by availability. My Milton friends have many choices of Baptist churches or Methodist churches, so their level of commitment to a specific church can be less. As a UU, I had the choice of no church or driving to Pensacola. I chose UUCP because I believe in our principles and practices. Remember, I said we can be committed to both people and organizations. When I was telling my daughter Kim about the unexpected passing of my very close friend Barbara Goggins, I remember she said, "Mom, what are you going to do without Miss Barbara?" Hence the question in terms of UUCP is, what would I do without UUCP? Sure, my faith and beliefs would still be the same, but together as a group, we can do so much more. One of the reasons I joined Impact 100 of Pensacola is just for that reason. When 1,000 women donate $1,000 each year, we have $1 million to donate, which certainly makes a significant impact on local nonprofit organizations. Last week's speaker from Just Pensacola is a good example of our church and many people working together to make a difference. When we are committed to an organization, we give more than just money, whether it be computer skills, plumbing skills, speaking skills, musical skills, counseling skills, organizational skills, gardening skills, etc. Everyone has something to contribute. Remember, one of our UU principles is the inherent worth of each person. I believe we learn from other people. That's another reason I am committed to UUCP. I enjoy talking to other people who see the world somewhat like I do. However, I also like to expand my thinking or to be challenged in my thinking. Without UUCP, I wouldn't have so many opportunities for this exchange of ideas. I am also committed to UUCP because I believe in the bigger picture. What would our world be like if there weren't liberal religious opportunities? While our church is called the Unitarian Universalist Church of Pensacola, we know we have a much larger footprint as we have members from Alabama, as well as various parts of Santa Rosa County, as well as Escambia County. I have always been a believer that we get out of an organization or effort what we put into it, whether it be learning in school, learning a new task or skill, or just having fun. If we believe something is worthwhile, we have to be willing to commit some effort to its success. I challenge each of you to ask yourselves, what would I do if UUCP didn't exist or wasn't available to me? I believe you would not be here today if you were not benefiting from UUCP. Now ask yourselves, what can I commit to UUCP? My time, my talents, my treasures. I believe each of us are the persons we are today because of our commitments to the people and organizations we choose to have in our lives. I hope you will increase your commitments to UUCP so each of us can benefit from your time, your talents, and your treasures. Thanks for listening.
All right, and our last speaker is Bradley Vinson. I got a sneak preview of her presentation. I'm real excited about it.
Good morning. My name is Bradley Vinson, and I use the pronouns she and her. I would like to share a commitment with you. I have been the librarian at West Pensacola Elementary for the past 8 years, and I'm going to talk about my commitment to my work there, and I think that it only takes a little stretch to see how that commitment can apply also to other commitments in my life, to my family and to this church. When I was thinking about it, I wondered how I might share my thoughts with you, and it didn't take too long to realize there had to be a book for that. So I'm going to be reading a story to you. It is called A Stone Sat Still by Brendan Wenzel. A stone sat still with the water, grass, and dirt, and it was as it was where it was in the world. And the stone was dark, and the stone was bright, and the stone was loud, and the stone was quiet. And it sat where it sat with the water, grass, and dirt, and it was as it was where it was in the world. And the stone was rough, and the stone was smooth. And the stone was green, red, purple, and blue. And the stone was a pebble, and the stone was a hill. There's our raccoons. And the stone was a feel, and the stone was a smell. And it sat where it sat with the water, grass, and dirt, and it was as it was where it was in the world. And the stone was the wild, and the stone was a home. And the stone was a kitchen, and the stone was a throne. And the stone was a marker, and a map, and a maze. a danger, a haven, a story, a stage. And the stone was a blink, and the stone was an age. And the stone was an island, and the stone was a wave. And the stone was a memory. And the stone was always. Have you ever known such a place? I work every day to make my library such a place that is whatever my students need it to be. It's sometimes loud and sometimes quiet, and different students will fill different needs there. If a student has been there before, I have committed their faces and names to memory and welcome them back, even if they've moved between multiple different schools and different homes or were without a home in the meantime. Whether a student is hunting for new knowledge, a comfortable favorite, a listening ear, or a character they can identify with, I am committed to making our library the place to find it. Thank you.
I just love that book. All right, and of course you cannot have a service about commitment without hearing the fire of commitment, which is one of our UU hymns. We are going to stay in our seats. You may have seen some of these floating around. If you have one that has the lyrics on it, this is a video that you can watch, or you're welcome to sing along. Do as you are most comfortable. But
We could stand but stay here, right?
yeah, stand as the body and spirit are willing and able.
Sets our mind and soul
So for our closing words and our postlude, I will be moving us into the mindset of the annual congregational meeting. And given what we are going to be talking about and voting on, my closing words are a little bit more relevant to that. It's called "The Church Has Left the Building" by Reverend Margaret Weiss. The church is not a place, it is a people. The church is not only a steeple above the tree-lined streets and cars, rather it is a people proclaiming to the world that we are here for the work of healing and of justice. The church is not walls built stone upon stone, held together by mortar, but rather person, linked with person, linked with person, all ages and genders and abilities, a community built on the foundation of reason, faith, and love. The church is not just a set of doors open on Sunday morning, but the commitment, day after day and moment after moment, of our hearts creaking open the doors of welcome to the possibility of new experience and radical welcome. The church is not simply a building, a steeple, a pew. The church is the gathering together of all the of all the people and experiences, and fear and love and hope in our resilient hearts. Gathering however we can to say to the world, welcome, come in, lay down your heartache, and pick up hope and love. For the church is us, each and every one of us together, a beacon of hope to this world that so sorely needs it. Go in peace. Thank you.